much have you earned that much?
I mean, I knew it as a fan, and Coach has said it, multiple times. Just if you're a football fan, especially in our age demographic, I mean, Nebraska is a big deal. And I knew just from a fan aspect, just the history of Coach Osborne, Coach Devaney, all the stuff, all the great wins, the national championships, the traditions, Memorial Stadium, the fan base. It was just whenever Coach Rule started talking about Nebraska, I mean, it got us going. Exciting.
Hey, Mark, Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. Can you discuss your association, your feelings, Coach Rule? You see on paper where they go back to, but what made you eager to make this move and follow him here?
Oh, we go all the way back to 2005 at Western Carolina. And, I was with him. I was his first coordinator at Temple in 2013, and we've been together really ever since. Even though I've been at different jobs, we're still, really, really close. I think the one thing is just the like mindset that we have. We expect football to be played a certain way. We expect coaches to coach a certain way. I think we're truly aligned from that standpoint. And so when he gave me the opportunity, I remember driving home from after we beat Clemson, and he texted me, said, "Call me." And I'm just hoping that that's what he's going to say is come with me. And when he did, I didn't even let him get it out of his mouth. I was like, heck yeah, let's go.
So you had a hunch he might be calling?
Well, he texted me, and he said, hey, call me. I had a bunch of texts after that game, and his just said, call me. And so I was hoping, that that's what it would be.
Hey, Marcus, Luke Mullen from the Lincoln Journal-Star. Just curious, when you take this job, what was on the top of your to-do list in those first couple weeks?
Just recruit, get to know our players. In today's world, you got to recruit your players, especially when you're a new staff with the transfer portal and all the things that are going on in college football. So just, recruit our players, make sure you get here fast enough before they go home for Christmas and get to see those guys, and then just start recruiting and start, evaluating the roster and seeing what we need and trying to go fill those needs.
Hey, Andy Kendi from KTV in Omaha. When you're looking at the roster and what you see on film, what would you describe as your biggest position of need right now?
I think receiver is a spot that we need to build. We've got some good receivers. I just think that we need to build the depth there and the different types of receivers. You don't want them all to look the same and be the same. You need different types of body types and stuff. So I think just filling some needs there, and I think we did a really nice job of that. Really fired up about the class we have coming in from the first signing day, and I think that we can continue to do that this month.
What worked at the end of the year for you?
Again, it's the same mindset as Coach Rule, just development and not being stubborn in a bad way, but just continuing to believe in what we believe in and continuing to coach. And I think just watching Spencer Rattler, just his development, how he played at the end of the year was just a culmination of hard work that started from last spring all the way through the season. And if you do that and you trust that and you just keep developing, keep coaching, you're going to end up playing well at the right time, which is at the end of the season.
And follow up to that, Amy Just from the Lincoln Journal-Star, from the very beginning for you, how did you see y'all's offense kind of develop, and what are some of the things that are transferable, right? You can't just manufacture Spencer Rattler here, right? So what are some things that could be transferable?
I hope I understood your question right, but we're going to be a pro-style offense. Like, we actually get in a huddle, which is kind of taboo these days. Like, we're going to get in a huddle and call football plays, and we're going to use tight ends, and we're going to use a fullback, and we're going to run the football. We understand to be successful in the Big Ten, you've got to be able to run the football because you're going to play late in the season in some interesting weather games, and you can't just throw the ball, all over the field. So I see that, we're starting from a standpoint of just being the physicality and playing good, clean football, and I think that, we're off to a good start with our recruiting.
Simple, Husker Online. Do you have any sense of what that means to Nebraska fans to hear you're going to use a fullback?
Yeah, I've heard it. Yeah, and it's interesting. I coached at the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga, and we opened up against Nebraska in 2011. And so, if you want to do something fun, go look at the first play that I called that day. I guess it was the first play of the season for us here at Memorial Stadium.
What was it?
Yeah.
Go research it. It's on YouTube.
You originally came in as a tight ends coach, and now you're moving over to quarterbacks. I mean, was that did you kind of know there could be some versatility with your spot as the coordinator on this staff?
I think if you look at mine and Coach Rule's past, we've coached every position on offense, from O-line to tight ends to running backs to receivers to quarterbacks. I am a quarterback coach at heart and by trade, but we were trying to formulate the best staff as possible, and I knew that certain guys we were talking to at that time, I thought it would be best if I just I coached the tight ends, which a lot of people are doing now, a lot of coordinators are doing. But as we kept going through the process, it just started making way more sense for me to stick with the quarterbacks.
Why is it important for a coordinator and a head coach, by the way, to coach all over the field as you guys have?
I think it's crucial just because you know what the issues are at each position. So as a coordinator, sometimes if I've only coached quarterbacks my whole life, I may put those running backs, tight ends, and offensive line in weird situations, asking them to do things that maybe aren't sound. So especially offensive line, get to coach the offensive line with the Panthers. Like, I know how to protect those guys now. Like, when I was younger, I probably put them in some bad situations, 5-man protections, not helping them, So we have, kind of understand tricks of the trade when you coach all those spots that you can help your guys be successful and keep them out of harm's way as much as possible.
Coach, why do you like the huddle? Why do you like that?
You don't really want to go down this path, I don't think, but I'm on a crusade about the huddle. Like, the huddle is the heart and soul of football. You cannot teach the leadership moments. You can't script the leadership moments that happen in a huddle. If you talk to any football player that played in a huddle, they're always going to talk about funny things that happen in the huddle. This guy was puking in the huddle. This guy ripped my what in the huddle. This guy, Joe Montana goes in the huddle and says, hey, we're getting ready to go down 75 yards and win this game. So there's all these moments that happen in a huddle. And then I think, how do you ask your quarterback to be a leader if he never talks? Today's football has become, clapping my hands for a snap count, and the coach is signaling plays on cue cards. And then they complain about the quarterback not being a vocal leader. Well, when does he have a chance to lead? And I think in a huddle, and the way that we play football, it gives our quarterbacks, a chance to be a vocal leader on our offense.
Speaking of quarterbacks, you got 4 quarterbacks that have started Power 5 games on this roster. How do you kind of manage that and decide kind of what direction you're going to take that room?
Well, coming from, I don't know if you've seen my past, but I played a GA at quarterback my first year at South Carolina. So to have the depth in the quarterback room is really exciting. And obviously I've not gotten to coach any of the guys we have yet, but just the potential and the depth that we have in there. And I'm excited about every kid in there. There's a couple of those young guys that I watched, in recruiting when I was at my other place that I was excited about. So it's a good room. It's a good problem to have.
What's the origin of your huddle obsession?
Probably just being stubborn and old school. Like, it's not offensive, but I just get so tired of, teams trying to run 100 plays, signaling plays on the cue card, clapping their hands. I don't know. I just think football's, meant to be played a certain way. And the huddle keeps us there and keeps us aligned.
Marcus, at 46, you're kind of an old guy on this coaching staff. What are your feelings about the dynamic of the group, the offensive group that you'll be in charge of, and the Coach Rule's group in general, and what do you think that youth can do this program?
I love the approach that Coach is taking when he's assembling this staff, and it is weird. We were laughing the other day, like, we are the old guys now. I still see myself as a young guy, but I'm really, with the huddle, I'm becoming anxious. I think his approach to just, we're not hiring guys that are splashes on paper of what they've done in the past. I think that when you see Coach and you understand his mindset and his brain, he is unbelievable at developing players, and he's unbelievable at developing coaches. And he's going to put together a staff, and he's putting together a staff on offense that is energetic, that is brilliant, and not me. And we're going to have brilliant ones there that are going to help me, stay out of trouble. But energetic, brilliant, guys that care about their players, guys that love the game of football, guys that, again, are committed to each other and being aligned with Coach Rule. So I'm excited about the guys that we're talking to. Obviously haven't announced everybody, but it's going to be a great staff.
I think you really got the chance, and when you first got here, to get out on the road in the state of Nebraska, go to some small towns, go to Omaha. What did you think of what you saw there at those high schools and with those players, and how big of a piece of building this program is that?
Well, I've never been to Nebraska until I went out on the road recruiting. It was really cool. I had no idea the quality of football that was in Nebraska. There's some really good players that play football. There's some really good teams, some good high school football that we need to make sure, as Coach will say, to keep those guys in the state of Nebraska.
Hey, Coach, Satterfield with Huskers. What stuck out to you about Donovan Raiola when you talked to him the first time, and what do you like about how that can fit?
I love him. When you come and you're taking a new job, there's all those weird situations with the coaches that are on the staff. Are they going to stay? Or are they going to be kept? I met with him with every intention of not liking him, because you're a new guy. You've got in your brain like, hey, I want to bring this guy, this guy, this guy. And I spent about 30 to 35 minutes with him and just fell in love with him. Like just his teaching method, his mindset, his commitment to player development, his commitment to Nebraska, the passion he spoke about when he talked about Nebraska and how important it was to him. And I went to Coach. Coach was like, do we want to go down this road? I was like, 100%. I stayed on Coach for 2 days. Like, don't drag your feet. Let's keep this guy. This is my guy. I want this guy. So excited to have him, and he's going to help us do some really good things.
Do you know Coach Wager well, and just like what do you think he can bring?
Energy, passion. Again, the most important thing in our organization is the players. And it's not, BS when Coach says that. Like, he's going to surround these guys with men that care about them. And when you think of Coach Wager, you think of a guy, coached high school ball in Texas for a long time, that has unbelievable passion and energy for the game of football, but he loves the kids. He loves coaching the kids, loves developing the kids, loves being around them and being there for them. So he's going to be a great addition.
In what ways does a head coach develop assistant coaches? Like, what are the ways that you observe?
He puts you in situations throughout the week, from accountability standpoint and different projects just to make sure that we're developing our brains and developing our skills to lead, puts you in leadership situations. I think he challenges you. Like, he's developed me just, making me coach all these different positions through the years. And I think he's brilliant at doing things like that.
Coach, great.
What do you think of, the Big Ten is distinct offensively, I think in college football, certainly in the Power Five, Big Ten West maybe even more so. Where does your system and vision fit into that, to that model?
I mean, I think it's perfect, to be honest with you, just from a standpoint of, like, we are a little bit old school. Like, we're going to run the football. Like, everything's going to be, start with winning the line of scrimmage and running the ball. All the different throws and play actions and stuff come off of running the football. So I think in order to win in this league, you got to be tough, you got to be blue collar, and you got to run the football, and you got to win the line of scrimmage, and that's where our offense starts.
Does Nebraska need to be distinct in some way? Or,
When I think of Nebraska, I think of hard work, blue collar, chip on their shoulder, Midwest, tough kids. And, a coach we talked to that used to coach here gave us some great advice, like, build your line of scrimmage with Nebraska kids and they'll die for Nebraska. And that's what I've adopted in my mindset, and that's what I think that, is going to be a good recipe for us to have success on offense.
my point is, Minnesota would say the same thing about themselves. Iowa would say the same thing about themselves. Illinois, Wisconsin.
All the conferences, like when I'm not in the conference, I look at the Big Ten as a blue collar, tough league full of tough guys. Playing tough games. It seems like every game's a 1 or 2 score game every single Saturday, whether you're at home or whether you're away. So I think that's the way you got to play, and I think that's a recipe for when you ultimately want to get to where we're going to be winning championships. You've got to play that style. Very few people have won, national championships doing it the other way.
Marcus, you mentioned Western Carolina, going way back to the beginnings with Matt. What were your observations about him when you first got to know him as a coach that have held true through these last 18 to 20 years?
Dynamic coach, dynamic people person, unbelievable leader, and he's consistent, and he does exactly what he tells you that he's going to do. He took me in a room when we were at Western Carolina, and I was coming off being a GA at Tennessee, and I thought, well, Randy Sanders or Philip Fulmer is going to give me a job here in the next couple of years. And Matt, which is only a year and a half older than me, brought me in and said, those guys aren't going to give you a job. It's the guys you're working with now that are going to give you the job. So make sure every single day, you're working, showing what kind of coach you're going to be. And then ironically enough, he's been the guy that's, given me all of my jobs. So he's a special leader. And again, can't say it enough. He cares about this place and he cares about his players. And I can't wait to see where these next couple of years go.
Whether it was deserved or not, you faced a lot of criticism at South Carolina. What did you learn about yourself through that, and how will that help you here?
I think anytime that you can have, you have to go through some things like that, it's going to toughen you up and callous you up, whether it's warranted or not. It's just part of the gig. If you call plays, if you're the head coach or the offensive coordinator, you're the quarterback, you're usually going to get a lot of the blame or a lot of the credit, whether it's deserved or not. So I enjoyed my time there, loved it. It was a great experience, great opportunity, and I think it's only toughened, calloused me up to be even more successful here.
You mentioned earlier your time at Carolina, working with the O-line. Could you expand on just how beneficial that experience was as you go forward now?
Yeah, I was scared to death when he said, "Hey, you're going to be the assistant O-line coach." And I was like, "What?" Like, I've never coached O-line in my life, and to coach those guys, it was an unbelievable experience. Just because those are the heart and soul of your team, those O-linemen, especially in the NFL, the pros. I think just pushing myself to learn the techniques and to learn the verbiage and learn how to be in a meeting with the offensive line. I think that that was a huge step for me. And then just again coaching it and seeing the issues that you had to go through as an offensive lineman, offensive line coach, I think only helps me as a play caller to make sure that I try to keep them out of those situations.
Evan Bland, Omaha World Herald. Your counterpart is bringing in that 3-3-5 defense. How many times have you faced that in your career, and what are the primary challenges for preparing for this?
I think because it can be so multiple. It might be classified as a 3-3-5, but they can play all the different fronts needed to be successful. When we were in the Big 12, it seemed like we played that every single week. So. We're somewhat familiar with it, but it's always going to be good to have variations of different defenses that we got to prepare for. It's only going to make us better in practice.
This will be your first time coaching in the Big Ten. Just kind of what are your overall thoughts on getting to coach in the conference?
I mean, exciting. I'm a football nerd, so I got to coach in the SEC. That was awesome. I got to coach in the NFL. That was awesome. Just to be able to go to these different stadiums, to get to come to work in Memorial Stadium is pretty cool. But just to go experience the traditions of the Big Ten is very, very exciting for me to think about the different games, getting to go to the different venues.
Marcus, Kevin. It sounds like it's been a whirlwind for you since getting hired with all the recruiting and everything else you've had to do. Have you had a chance to learn Lincoln, and what are your impressions just of the city and the state? I
haven't had a chance to learn it other than just, we're staying at the hotel, and I know all the little restaurants and stuff that we go eat every night, but it seems like a great place. I mean, I'm ready to get my family out here, let them see, what all the fuss is about and get them moved out here, but really enjoyed it so far.
Coach, you talked about the quarterback depth, and you mentioned your willingness and want to run the ball. How do you feel about the depth in the running back room?
We're always going to be trying to find, to create and build the depth in each position group. I haven't coached those guys. I've watched them and I haven't felt them yet. You know what I'm saying? I haven't been on the field. So I can only really feel what I saw on tape. I think that, we've got a good room there. I think that, they were productive at times last year and will continue to be productive, moving forward. So until I can really see them and feel them at that position, it's kind of hard to make a judgment.
What's your philosophy on quarterback run game and maybe how it's evolved in college football?
I think it's crucial. It's absolutely crucial. The worst times, the last couple of years that when you struggle, sometimes you need that to get your guys going and get your offenses going. And when I've become a little bit too traditional and not have a quarterback run scheme, we've struggled sometimes. So I love having the ability to, recruit to that position, to have the ability to have the quarterback run. I don't want to major in it, but I think, every now and then you can sprinkle it in and make the defense defend it. I think it only helps you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Real quick, I just want to say I'm very lucky, very fortunate to be part of this university. If you think about all the great minds, all the college football coaches there are out there, especially defensively wise nowadays, there's a lot of people who could be standing here in front of you, and I'm just thankful for the opportunity that Coach Rule and Mr. Alberts gave to me and my family, and want to do things right and want to get this thing back on the right track. So with that, any questions?
What are your impressions of the Big Ten and how your defense will fit in it?
Well, we got a chance to play Purdue when I was at Syracuse, and now that's they were more of the passing offense right there, but still in terms of attitude wise, they were a physical team, big team. Kind of established their will at the line of scrimmage, and for us it was just a different game. But I think nowadays, Coach Rule, one of the things he did was he was big on studies. He's a big football guy. And one of the things he sent me was the personnel groupings and stuff in the Big Ten last year, and it's surprising to see that 11 personnel was the top amongst, I think, everyone but one team. So you get that with, obviously, in the bowl games you got a chance to see Syracuse against Minnesota. You saw Illinois versus Mississippi State. So really, it's a deal that we're going to have to account for, and really, our personnel comes into play. I got to be able to put our guys in the best position to make plays.
What do you like about 3-5 as opposed to other formations?
Well, I grew up in the guy who kind of really came up and really redefined the 3-3-5, Rocky Long, and he's the one who recruited me to UCLA, and then he gave me a chance at the University of New Mexico, coaching linebackers there in 2007. And then when I went to San Diego State, all those times we were running the 3-3-5. So it's something I grew up in. I played in it and then coached in it my whole time. And really, when you're studying football, the 3-3-5 is just personnel. I mean, personnel-wise, you're lining up with 3 D linemen, 3 linebackers, and 5 DBs. But football-wise, that's all that really nickel is. Nickel is 4-2-5. I mean, we go 3-3-5, but we line up in a ton of different fronts and all that kind of stuff. So really, it's just the 3-3-5 is more personnel based. So.
Coach Greg Smith on this side of Nebraska, how does that 3-5 defense allow you to be look at multiple guys in recruiting? How does it broaden your horizons as far as recruiting?
Yeah, no, good question, Greg. The biggest thing there is I think that 3-3-5 when you start off with that base, it allows you to recruit and then really be flexible with what you have. I know that's a starting point, but then let's say you have a great year and you have a ton of defensive linemen. Well, now you went from being a 3-3-5 to maybe a 4-2-5. Maybe you're down on D linemen and you have more backers. Well, then it's a 3-3-5. So it gives you a chance to go out and recruit. And the great thing about Coach Rule is he is really, really big on recruiting the big guys up front. So we're going to recruit our tail up there and then kind of adjust the defense to the personnel that we have.
Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. You guys got a jump start in recruiting this class, this freshman class, junior college player, your guys out of the portal, in that in year one, you'll have a lot of your guys here. How much were you able to look for pieces that would fit the scheme that you want to run in that short period of time and signing those players?
Mitch, good to see you, man. Good to see you. The crazy thing about that is kind of like I said, I think if you get stuck just recruiting, okay, 3-3-5, I only get this defensive lineman for this, I get this nose tackle for this, I get this for that, I think then you're stuck. I think the biggest thing, especially with Coach Rule's background, is you take athletes, you take football players, and good coaches kind of adjust the scheme around them. And that's been the way it was since when I came in there. This 3-3-5 was always at places where maybe you didn't get as many defensive linemen, so you saw more 3-3 stuff. Well, some years when you had better D linemen, you saw more 4-down stuff, So it's always about how does the scheme fit the players versus recruiting specific players to fit the scheme.
Is it possible you wouldn't even run a 3-3-5 here?
Yeah, of course. Anything's possible. Anything to win, man. 3-3-5. If we got to line up with 5 D linemen and 1 linebacker, whatever. That's the great thing. For me, it's about concepts. You teach a concept, and whether you have 3 D linemen and 3 linebackers doing it, or whether you have 5 D linemen and 1 linebacker doing it, it's very conceptual.
Coach Steve Morick with Inside Nebraska, the rover position at Syracuse. Can you just talk a little bit about that, and if you're going to use some form of that here?
Yeah, it'll be. Now, again, I think Sat said it best. We haven't got a chance to feel the guys around here yet. You watch the tape and you see where guys were and what they were doing last year, but I haven't got a chance to feel them. So you don't know exactly how if it's going to be played the same, if it's going to be like more traditional old school where that guy was more in the center of the defense, or whether that guy's more on the perimeter of the defense. We don't know yet, but it'll be very similar to what we've done and what's being done with all those same guys from the Rocky Long Tree. Yeah.
Characterize it as a difficult decision for you to take this job, and why? I mean, why did you take this job?
Again, whenever you're talking about a situation where you're in a good place. I mean, I was in a good place with Syracuse and Coach Babers, and those young men over there played their butts off for me in the university. And when an opportunity presents itself like this, I think it comes down to a lot of factors. Me and my family talking, the relationship with Coach Rule going back to when I was a player and he was coming in to be a GA. And then, again, I said this once before, but I think first impressions are really big. And when I was in middle school and high school, that was kind of like the birth of me understanding what college football was and playing football. And that's you look at me in middle school, and I graduated in 96, 97 from high school. That was Nebraska, right? That's Nebraska. You looked up and you saw Nebraska, Nebraska, Nebraska. So you add in all that stuff and then just sitting around talking about it with the family, and I thought it was something that you could not pass it up.
What are your first impressions of this place, of being in the stadium every day, of being in the city? What are your first impressions?
You see why it's different. I mean, from the people, from you walk in and you see the national championship trophies, you see the Heisman. I mean, you walk around, you see why this place has been special and can be special. There's no doubt there, and it only adds to the fact that Coach Rule and his plan has worked, the things he believes in, the staff he's put together. I think again, it's very easy when you walk around here and you see and you feel it. It's something special.
How much of a connection were you able to form with Coach Rule in that short time that you guys were together in Los Angeles, and did that relationship? You maintain that relationship over these last 20 years or so?
Yeah, it's funny. So I was going out, he was coming in, and I didn't get a chance to play pro ball. I wasn't good enough. All right, so for that next year while he was a GA, I was around the program finishing up my schooling and all that stuff. And then it was always one of those things where you saw a guy having success and then it's a text message, or you run into him when I was at San Diego State, New Mexico, you run into them at, when they're at Temple and all that stuff, you run into them on the road and all this kind of stuff. So it's one of those things that was always right there. Hey, Coach, how you doing, man? Good job, saw you. Da, da, da. And then when he got this job, it was a text message just like that, and then it became a phone call, then it became an interview, and then it became a hey, let's do this thing. So
how much does Rule get involved with the defense? How much do you anticipate him being involved with your defense?
Very. I mean, a football guy's a football guy, and I thought it was really good being around some coaches. They said be the dumbest one in the room. You want to be in a room where you're the dumbest guy, because then that's all you're doing is growing. And so when you get to listen to these guys and listen to them talk football, just football, I wouldn't have it any other way. He's in there, he's talking schemes, he's talking mostly, again, you see it from the other side of the ball. You know what I mean? You see what the offense was thinking, what he would have done, how he would have attacked. And so then it helps you find answers. It helps you see, like, okay, well, if I move this guy here, you were thinking this one time, but now you're thinking this, and I can get you. So I think it's really important that he's involved in, and like I said, he loves ball. That's a good thing about Sat, these other guys, is when they're not doing anything naturally, you see them around ball, watching ball. You know what I mean? So that's really cool, and again, it'll make me better.
You talked about kind of getting those big guys in recruiting. What have you seen from Coach Knighton, and what have been your impressions of him so far?
Oh man, he's funny. He's fine. Listen, I wouldn't want to do something wrong. I tell you that. He gets after it. He's fiery. But again, you talk about knowledge. A guy who's played it at the highest level you can on the planet. Really good communicator. He knows what he wants to do. So it's been fun being around him up to this point. And once we get the recruiting done and get a chance to get off the road and all get in the room and whoever the last additions to the staff, once we can all be together and really talk football and get into it, then I don't doubt that it'll be a good experience for everybody.
Coach Sean Callahan with Huskers Online, how much have you been able to study the roster, the players you inherit? I mean, they finished the year on a strong note. A lot of those guys have turned. I mean, what do you know about what you have to work with that's already here?
Yeah, I mean, they've been sprinkling in because when I got here, they were taking finals and in that discretionary week. So I got a chance to see a lot of the guys stepping in there, and then any chance we get, we go back and watch just to see body types, how they move, and all that kind of stuff, just on film. And it's funny. You talk about coaching change, and you go into a room and you think, okay, when you watch the film, you say, yeah, these guys aren't very good, Well, when you watch the guys, they play their butts off, and you do have some talent there. I think it was just a matter of, for me, making sure that everybody's on the same page and everybody knows what they're playing for, because that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing that helped us at my last school, was when we all saw things the same way, we all knew what we were fighting for, it made us more difficult to stop. And so you have talent here. I like the guys up front. I like Ty Robb. I remember him from when I was at Arizona State recruiting him. Got a chance to see Nash run around. Again, Luke. You see, I like some of the athleticism of the DBs. But again, it comes back to seeing them and feeling them in person, and then getting a chance to put them in the best spots where they can just go play versus thinking all the time.
Satterfield identified on the offensive side of the ball the receiver position as an area of need. Do you see anything on the defensive side where you say, okay, we need bodies there, we need more talent there?
I would say, you're always you ask a coach that, you're always gonna hear D-line. You always want more D linemen, okay? And then I think, you want to see. I really want to get a chance to see and be around the guys at linebacker. I want to see that room completely. I know we've made some nice additions to it, but getting a chance, I know when I get a chance to see Luke, and I saw him run around, I got a chance to meet him, really excited about what he does. Nick, and I know he got injured there towards the end of the year, but really interested to see how that linebacker room plays out, and that'll be a big thing in terms of being able to put guys in the right positions and what kind of personnel groupings you put together. I think that room right there is going to be key to what we do in the fall.
As a coordinator, do you focus on a position? I know you've got we'll have all three levels. Do you spend more of your time with the linebackers since you were a linebacker, or do you just complete walk around?
No, I usually spend my time. I was with the linebackers, and then I went with the secondary for a big chunk of my career, and then went back at Syracuse to linebacker. So once everyone is hired and we get a chance to see where I can be daily. I like to walk around so I can hear and feel everybody, all the position groups and the coach interactions and stuff. But I'll be with the position group mainly, and then walk around. But we need to get everybody in the room first.
Same as with Marcus. He's got a young staff on the offensive side. 30s and 20s, likely when it all ends up for you. What do you expect that vibe to be like? What's the pluses and minuses of having that much youth?
Well, you got a lot of energy. That's for sure. Have you guys met Coop yet? That dude is like a walking Red Bull advertisement right there, man. This dude has a lot of energy. I love it. T Knight. He's talking. Some of the other guys there that we got to announce. A lot of energy. First thing you see and you feel is the energy, and I think. I don't see anything as a detriment. It's all on me to make sure that we all see things the same way. At the end of the day, we all see things the same way. So when we go out there and we teach and we coach, everybody's on the same page. I think that's the most important thing. And until we're all in that room, until we all get together and really grind things out, I'm excited about not only the youth and the energy, but the knowledge. Again, these are football guys. These are guys that, You know, you talk to Coop, and he's talking about game planning and defending Joe Burrow and Tom Brady and Drew Brees, you know, stuff like that. Then you go to T Knight, and he's talking about going up against Trent Williams and all these other guys, you know, in the league and stuff like that. So you talk about the knowledge in the room, and it's gonna be exciting.
Coach, you just got
Andy Kennedy.
And
You've been sprinkling around a whole bunch of different things, but if you could sum up, like, if people ask you, what's the White defense, what are they known for? What do you want to be known for when we bring here to Nebraska?
I think I would say the passion. You want to see a group of guys out there that when they play, they don't look at the score. They have fun watching those young men play their butts off, and everything will take care of itself. You know, and there's a lot of pieces that go into that, but when they take the field, you're going to know that they're playing for Nebraska. Okay, they're part of a tradition that's really unlike any other in the country. Okay, that I got to make sure I do right. All right, but that you don't have to look up at the score. That when that defense runs out there, you're going to sit up in your seats. You're going to grab your popcorn. You're going to pay attention because those boys are going to play. Period.
Coach, the linebacker room you mentioned, Eric Fields, the 2023 linebacker. Mm-hmm. What did you like about him? What did this staff? What does he bring to the team?
Yeah, speed. I mean, you see his track times. He's very explosive, a lot of speed. And again, he's kind of a chess piece there where you say, where does he actually fit? Is he a linebacker? Is he that rover position? Is he an edge coming off the edge? I mean, you don't truly know until they get here. But again, the first thing that jumps off at you is he's got a lot of speed, and you don't realize when he walks up on you how big he is. You know, he's a tall guy. He can be 225, 230, and if he can still run that way, then you got a piece to mess around with.
Tony, Brian Christopherson from Huskers. I mean, you're known for your strong recruiting background. What's your early impressions of these guys on the staff and how they recruited in this first month? I know there's a lot to take on.
Yeah, you know Coach Rule, if you don't recruit, you ain't here. I mean, that's number one. I mean, that's the great thing about being with these guys is that they understand if you got the guys here, you have a chance, you know. So everything is built up around recruiting and those relationships and bringing the pieces here so that way we can get them and develop them, you know. But again, that's one of the things first and foremost. If you can't recruit and you don't want to recruit, then you ain't gonna be here. That's the way it goes.
Describe in detail your plans for the black shirt tradition, including what day each year you'll hand them out and how many you'll hand out.
I had a paragraph on the black shirt deal ready to go, but no. The most important thing I can do with that tradition is find out knowledge, right? I gotta talk to people who have instilled it, who have lived it, who have done it the right way. I've heard many different ways that they've done it, you know, bringing old guys back, taking it away, doing it, waiting for a couple games, doing it in fall camp or spring. I've heard a lot of different things already. And the worst thing I can do is sit up here and say, I know I'm going to do it this way. No, that's something you don't mess around with, because again, I think that's one of the greatest kind of traditions you have in college football, especially defensively wise. You talk the black shirts, again, like, as a kid running around, you talked about putting on a black shirt and reenacting that you were part of the defense. You know what I mean? So I want to do it right. I gotta talk to people who have done it and kind of figure out what the best way to do it, and then I'll let you know.
Anything else for Coach? All right, thank you.
Appreciate everybody. Thank you.